Admiral Taemin Kim stood on the bridge of Earth's newest warship, watching the massive alien vessels hover above the planet's cities. 3 months had passed since first contact, and he still felt amazed every time he saw them. The ships were beautiful in a way that human technology could never match. They moved through space like living things, their hulls shining with colors that seemed to shift and dance in the starlight. "Admiral, the council delegates are requesting permission to board," said Captain Hyunwoo Lee, his voice steady but excited. At 32, Lee was the youngest captain in Earth's fleet, but his tactical skills had earned him command of the flagship Indomitable. "Grant them permission," Taemin replied. He straightened his uniform and walked to the docking bay to meet their guests. The Galactic Council had promised humanity a place among the stars, and today they would finalize the agreement that would change Earth forever. Dr. So Young Park was already waiting in the docking bay with her team of scientists and translators. As Earth's chief xenobiologist, she had spent the last 3 months learning everything she could about the 12 alien species that made up the Council. Her work had made the negotiations possible. "Are you ready for this?" she asked Taemin, as they watched the alien shuttle approach. "As ready as anyone can be for joining a galactic civilization," he replied. "What do you think of them, Doctor? Really think?" So Young paused before answering. "They seem genuine. Their technology is incredible, and they've shared so much with us already. The medical advances alone will save millions of lives, but—" She hesitated. "But some of their questions seem odd. They ask a lot about our military structure, our population centers, our industrial capacity, more than they need to know for trade agreements." Before Taemin could respond, the shuttle docked. The doors opened with a soft hiss and 3 aliens stepped out. The lead delegate was tall and graceful, with skin that looked like polished silver and eyes that held depths Taemin couldn't understand. The translator device at his throat spoke in perfect English. "Admiral Kim, Dr. Park, we are honored to continue our discussions. I am Ambassador Veltar of the Centauri Collective, and these are my colleagues from the Rigel Federation and the Vega Commonwealth." The formal greetings took 20 minutes, following protocols that the aliens had carefully taught Earth's diplomats. Everything had to be perfect for humanity's integration into galactic society. They moved to the ship's conference room, where Ambassador Woo Jin Choi was waiting with the final documents. As Earth's representative to the Galactic Council, Choi had worked tirelessly to secure the best possible terms for humanity. "The Harmony protocols are ready for your review," Veltar said, placing a crystal device on the table. The device projected a holographic display showing hundreds of pages of text in both human and alien languages. Taemin read through the main sections while Choi and his legal team examined the details. The agreement was everything they had hoped for. Earth would receive advanced technology, access to galactic trade networks, and protection from hostile alien species. In return, humanity would contribute resources and manpower to the Council's peacekeeping forces. "This seems very generous," Choi said carefully. "What do you expect from Earth's military contribution?" "Your species shows remarkable adaptability and courage," replied the Rigel delegate, its mechanical voice translated through the device. "We have great need for such qualities in our expansion into unexplored regions, dangerous regions where peaceful species fear to go." So Young frowned slightly. "Expansion? I thought the Council was focused on maintaining peace among existing civilizations." "Of course," Veltar said smoothly. "But the galaxy is vast, and there are always new threats emerging from the darkness between stars. The Council must be prepared to defend civilization itself." The negotiations continued for hours. Earth would build a new fleet using hybrid human-alien technology. The aliens would provide the advanced components and power sources, while humans would contribute their engineering skills and tactical knowledge. It seemed like a perfect partnership. "There is one more thing," the Vega delegate said as they prepared to finalize the agreement. "For security reasons, all ships built with Council technology must include certain safeguards, standard procedures to prevent the technology from falling into hostile hands." "What kind of safeguards?" Captain Lee asked. "Remote shutdown capabilities primarily. If a ship is captured or compromised, The Council can disable it to prevent our technology from being used against peaceful civilizations. A minor precaution, but necessary in these dangerous times. Taemin felt a small chill, but Choi was already nodding. That seems reasonable. We wouldn't want our ships used against innocent people if they were captured. The documents were signed with great ceremony. Earth was officially a member of the Galactic Council, the newest addition to a civilization that spanned thousands of worlds. The aliens departed with promises to begin technology transfer immediately. Over the following months, Earth transformed at an incredible pace. Alien medical technology eliminated cancer, heart disease, and most genetic disorders. New energy systems provided unlimited clean power. Manufacturing techniques that seemed like magic produced materials stronger and lighter than anything humans had imagined. The shipyards worked around the clock, building Earth's new fleet. The ships were magnificent, incorporating the best of human design with alien technology that pushed the boundaries of physics. Faster-than-light drives that could cross the galaxy in weeks. Weapons that could shatter asteroids. Shields that could withstand the fury of dying stars. Taemin spent his days overseeing construction while Captain Lee led training missions with the new ships. The vessels handled like dreams, responding to their crew's thoughts as much as their commands. Human pilots adapted to the technology with surprising speed, earning praise from their alien instructors. But not everything was perfect. Engineer Dong Hyun Park, So Young's brother, came to her with concerns about the alien systems. There are components in these ships that I don't understand, he told his sister during a private meeting. Black boxes that the aliens say are for quantum stabilization or harmonic resonance. But when I try to study them, the access ports are sealed with materials I can't analyze. Have you asked the alien advisors about them? I tried. They say the technology is too advanced for humans to understand safely. That exposure to the quantum fields could damage our brains, but it feels like they're hiding something. So Young shared his concerns with Admiral Kim, but the alien explanations seemed reasonable. Humanity was still learning to crawl while their new partners could fly between stars. Some secrets would have to remain secrets until humans were ready. Meanwhile, Ambassador Choi was making progress at the council chambers on the neutral world of Nexus Prime. The vast structure housed representatives from thousands of species, and Choi was learning to navigate the complex politics of galactic civilization. Your people show great promise, Veltar told him during a private dinner. Already some council members speak of fast-tracking Earth's integration. Perhaps within a decade, humans could have full voting rights. That's wonderful news. What would that mean for us? Full participation in council decisions, the right to propose new initiatives, access to the most advanced technologies and trade agreements. Your species would truly be equal partners in our great endeavor. It sounded too good to be true, but the aliens had kept every promise they had made. Earth's transformation was proof of their goodwill. The formal induction ceremony was scheduled for the anniversary of first contact. Earth's entire leadership would travel to Nexus Prime for the event. It would be the greatest day in human history. But 3 days before the ceremony, Choi discovered something that changed everything. He was working late in his quarters reviewing the final details of Earth's integration when his computer accidentally accessed a restricted council database. The files appeared on his screen for only a few seconds before security systems locked them away. But it was long enough for Choi to read the headers. Project Human Integration, Phase 7 complete. Military Capacity Assessment, exceeds projections. Population Control Protocols, ready for implementation. Resource Extraction Timeline, accelerated schedule approved. His hands shaking, Choi tried to access the files again, but they were gone. Security protocols had sealed the breach. But those few words told him everything he needed to know. Humanity wasn't joining the council as equal partners. They were being prepared for conquest. Choi spent the next 2 days carefully investigating, using every diplomatic contact in favor he had earned. The truth was worse than he had feared. The Galactic Council wasn't the peaceful organization it claimed to be. It was an empire built on betrayal and conquest, and humanity was their latest target. Every species that had joined the Council had followed the same pattern. First contact, generous offers of technology and partnership, integration ceremonies, and then sudden betrayal. The safeguards in their ships would disable Earth's entire fleet when the Council decided to strike. The medical technology included hidden viruses that could be activated to kill millions. The manufacturing systems could be shut down instantly, crippling Earth's economy. Worse still, Choi discovered that Earth's leaders weren't T. Engineer Dong-hyun Park was deep in the maintenance tunnels of the orbital defense station when the first alarms began screaming. He had been working on the power systems for 18 hours straight, trying to understand why the alien technology kept giving him strange readings. His sister So-young's voice crackled through his communicator, filled with panic. "Dong-hyun, where are you? Something's happening to all the alien systems. They're shutting down everywhere." He pulled himself out of the narrow tunnel and activated his portable scanner. The readings made his blood run cold. Every piece of alien technology on the station was going dark in sequence, following a pattern that looked almost like a countdown. "I'm on my way to the command center," he told his sister. "But So-young, I think this is what I've been afraid of. Those black boxes, I couldn't understand. I think they're receiving some kind of signal." The corridors of the station were filled with confused technicians and panicking civilians. The main lights had failed, leaving only emergency power to illuminate the chaos. Dong-hyun pushed through the crowds, his mind racing through everything. He knew about the station's systems. Colonel Na Young-song was shouting orders in the command center when he arrived. She was Earth's youngest orbital defense commander, known for her quick thinking and fierce determination. Right now she looked terrified. "Park, thank God you're here. Every alien system is failing simultaneously. Power grids, communication, networks, weapon systems. Even the artificial gravity is fluctuating." "It's not failing," Dong-hyun said grimly. "It's being shut down remotely. The aliens built kill switches into everything they gave us." Before Colonel Song could respond, the main display activated. Ambassador Veltar's face appeared, his expression calm and almost apologetic. "Citizens of Earth," the alien's translated voice echoed through speakers across the planet. "We regret that deception was necessary, but your integration into the Council requires adjustment to your current governmental structure." On the planet below, General Seung-ho Kim watched the broadcast from his bunker deep beneath Seoul. He had received Ambassador Choi's warning message just hours earlier, but there hadn't been time to prepare proper defenses. Now he watched his worst fears come to life. "Your military forces are no longer functional," Veltar continued. "Your communication networks are under our control. Your power systems depend on our continued goodwill. Resistance will only cause unnecessary suffering." The general activated his emergency communicator, one of the few systems built with purely human technology. "All units, this is General Kim. Execute Protocol 7 immediately. Fall back to pre-planned positions and prepare for guerrilla operations." Protocol 7 was something he had developed in secret against the advice of his superiors. It assumed that Earth's advanced defenses would be compromised and relied instead on hidden bunkers, old-fashioned weapons, and human determination. In orbit, Admiral Taemin Kim was aboard one of the few ships still functioning. The Indomitable had been conducting engine tests using backup human systems when the shutdown signal hit. Captain Lee had managed to switch to emergency power just in time to avoid complete system failure. "Status report," the Admiral demanded, as his bridge crew frantically worked to understand what was happening. 90% of the fleet is dead in space," Lee reported. "The alien components shut down first, then triggered cascading failures in the human systems. We estimate less than 30 ships are still operational, and most of those are running on minimal power." Through the main viewer, they could see the Council fleet emerging from hyperspace. Hundreds of alien warships, their weapons already charging for bombardment. The beautiful vessels that had once inspired wonder now looked like harbingers of death. "Open a channel to all functioning ships," Admiral Kim ordered. "This is Admiral Kim to all units. The Council has betrayed us. Repeat, the Council has betrayed us. All ships are to evacuate civilian areas and prepare for hit-and-run tactics. Do not attempt direct engagement with the main fleet. The first bombardment began minutes later. Precise strikes hit Earth's major cities, military bases, and industrial centers. The aliens weren't trying to destroy humanity completely. They wanted survivors to serve as slaves and soldiers. Dr. So-Young Park was in Geneva when the plasma bolts began falling from the sky. She had been attending an emergency council meeting, trying to coordinate Earth's scientific response to the crisis. Now she watched through the windows as the city burned. "The shelters won't protect us from sustained bombardment," said Dr. Mira Yoon, the military psychologist who had become her closest advisor. "We need to evacuate the population to areas the aliens consider less valuable. The rural regions and smaller cities," So-Young agreed. "They want our infrastructure intact, so they'll avoid unnecessary damage. Get word to the evacuation coordinators." But communication was nearly impossible. The alien control over Earth's networks was complete. Only a few hardened military systems remained operational, and those were being hunted by council ships. In Dao, Space Admiral Kim led his tiny fleet in a desperate attack against the council command vessel. He knew it was suicide, but he hoped to buy time for evacuations and maybe send a message to any human ships that had escaped the initial trap. "All ships, this is Admiral Kim," he broadcast on all frequencies as his ships raced toward the massive alien dreadnought. "Remember this day. Remember how they betrayed us with smiles and promises. Remember Earth. Remember the billions they're murdering right now." The Indomitable shook under alien fire as they closed the distance. Captain Lee kept the ship steady, his face grim with determination. "Admiral, we're not going to reach them. Their shields are too strong." "Then we make sure our message reaches someone who can use it," Kim replied. He activated the ship's emergency beacon, a simple human device that would broadcast continuously for months. "Computer, record final message. Full military encryption." He spoke quickly, knowing they had only seconds before the ship was destroyed. "This is Admiral Tae-min Kim, Earth Defense Force. The Galactic Council has betrayed humanity. Their technology contains hidden kill switches. Their promises were lies. To any human ships receiving this message, remember Earth. Remember the betrayal. Make them pay." The Indomitable exploded in a brilliant flash of light, taking 2 council escort ships with it. The other human vessels followed moments later, their sacrifice buying precious minutes for the evacuation efforts below. On Earth's surface, the horror was just beginning. Council ground forces landed in major population centers, using weapons that stunned rather than killed. They wanted prisoners, not corpses. General Kim's resistance fighters struck back wherever they could. Hidden weapons caches, concealed in mountain caves and abandoned buildings, provided old-fashioned firearms and explosives. They couldn't match alien technology, but they could make the occupation costly. Engineer Park had made it to one of the underground resistance bunkers beneath the Alps. Working with a team of human engineers, he was frantically trying to develop countermeasures against the Council's control systems. "I've isolated the shutdown signal," he reported to Colonel Song, who had managed to evacuate her command staff to the bunker. "It's a quantum frequency transmission. If we can build jammers, we might be able to restore some of our systems." "How long will that take?" "Weeks, maybe months. And we'd need materials that are probably impossible to get now that the aliens control all the manufacturing centers." The resistance fighters brought reports from across the planet. Billions had died in the initial bombardment. Millions more were being rounded up for transport to alien labor camps. The Council was efficient in its cruelty, sorting humans by age, health, and skills. Children and young adults were sent to education centers where they would be trained to serve alien masters. Older humans were used for manual labor in dangerous industries. Scientists and engineers like the Parks were valuable prisoners, kept alive to develop new technologies for their captors. But not all humans had been caught in the trap. Deep space. Monitoring stations reported that approximately 30 ships had escaped the solar system before the shutdown signal reached them. These vessels had been on patrol missions, training exercises, or supply runs when the betrayal began. Captain Boram, you commanded one of those ships. Her vessel, the Vengeance, was a small destroyer that had been testing new engine configurations in the outer system when the Council fleet arrived. She watched the fall of Earth through her long-range sensors, her heart breaking with every bombardment. "Captain, we're receiving Admiral Kim's final transmission," reported her communications officer. Boram listened to the recording 3 times, memorizing every word. The Admiral's voice was steady despite the chaos around him, filled with grief and rage, but also with determination. "Set course for the Kepler Void," she ordered. "Maximum stealth. If any other ships escaped, that's where they'll go." The Kepler Void was a region of unstable space that most aliens avoided. Human ships could navigate it with difficulty, but it would provide cover while they regrouped and planned their response. As the Vengeance slipped away into the darkness between stars, Boram made a promise to herself and to her dead homeworld. The Council thought they had won. They had crushed Earth's defenses, captured most of its population, and destroyed its government. 6 months after Earth's fall, Captain Hyunwoo Lee stood in the command center of what the survivors called Haven Station. The hidden base was built inside a massive asteroid in the Kepler Void, where the unstable gravity fields made detection nearly impossible. He was no longer just a captain. The 29 surviving ships had elected him as their leader, though he had never wanted the responsibility. Admiral Kim was dead. General Kim was probably dead or captured. Most of Earth's leadership had been at the integration ceremony when the betrayal began. "Status report," Lee said to Lieutenant Commander Ji-won Kim, Admiral Kim's daughter and now their chief intelligence officer. "We have confirmation that 23 more ships escaped the initial trap," she reported. "They're making their way, here slowly, using routes that avoid Council patrol areas. Our total strength should reach 52 vessels within the next month." It sounded impressive until you remembered that Earth's fleet once numbered over 800 ships. The survivors called themselves the Terran Remnant Fleet, but Lee sometimes wondered if they were just delaying the inevitable. "What about supply? Status?" he asked Chief Engineer Sungmin Park, who had become their expert on combining human and alien technology. "We're getting better at scavenging Council supply convoys," Park replied. "The hit-and-run attacks are providing materials and equipment. More importantly, I'm learning how their technology really works. The kill switches were just the beginning of their deception." "What do you mean?" "Every piece of alien tech has multiple layers of control systems. They can not only shut down devices remotely, but they can also make them malfunction, explode, or even turn against their users. But I'm developing countermeasures." Dr. Mi Ra-yoon looked up from her reports. As the fleet's military psychologist, she was responsible for keeping the survivors mentally fit for combat. It was a difficult job when everyone had lost family, friends, and their entire world. "The crews are holding together well," she said. "Grief has turned into focused anger. That's keeping them functional for now. But we need to give them hope for something more than just survival." Lee nodded. He understood the psychology of his people. They were running on rage and the need for revenge, but those emotions wouldn't sustain them forever. They needed a real chance at victory, not just the ability to hurt their enemies. "Show me the intelligence reports," he said to Ji-won. The young woman activated the holographic display showing a 3-dimensional map of Council space. Red markers indicated known military bases, blue showed industrial worlds, and green marked the locations of captured humans. "We've learned a lot from the raids," Ji-won explained. "The Council isn't as unified as they pretend to be. There are 12 primary species, but dozens of minor ones that serve them. More importantly, the ruling species don't trust each other completely." "How do you know this?" "Captured communications and interrogation of prisoners. The Centauri Collective and the Rigel Federation have been enemies for centuries. They only cooperate because they fear something even more." "Fear what?" "A united rebellion of all the species they've conquered. According to the files we've stolen, the Council has been doing this for over 1,000 years. They've betrayed and enslaved hundreds of civilizations." Lee felt a spark of hope for the first time in months. "Do any of those civilizations still exist?" "Many of them. The Council doesn't genocide entire species because they need workers and soldiers. They break their governments and military forces, then integrate the survivors into their empire. But That means there are millions of potential allies scattered across the galaxy. Engineer Park leaned forward. I've been analyzing the technology we've captured. Each species that joined the Council was forced to contribute their best innovations. The result is a technological base built on stolen knowledge from hundreds of different civilizations. Which means what, exactly? It means that if we could unite those species, we'd have access to all their original technologies, things the Council has suppressed or modified for their own purposes. We might be able to build weapons and defenses they can't counter. Lee studied the star map, his tactical mind beginning to see possibilities. We need more intelligence, specific information about these enslaved species and where they're located. I can help with that, said Captain Boram Yu, entering the command center. Her ship had just returned from a deep reconnaissance mission behind Council lines. I've found something that changes everything. She activated a data crystal, and the display shifted to show the layout of a massive space station. This is Integration Station 7 in the Vega system. It's one of 12 facilities where the Council processes new conquest victims. But this one is special. How special? It contains the integration archives, complete records of every species the Council has conquered, including detailed information about their original governments, technologies, and military capabilities. Even better, it holds over 50,000 human prisoners, including scientists and military officers from Earth. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Dr. Mirai Yoon spoke first. It's a trap. It has to be. They know we need those records and our people. They're using them as bait. Probably, Lee agreed. But it's also an opportunity. If we can get those archives and rescue our people, we'd have everything we need to start building a real rebellion. Engineer Park was already studying the station's schematics. The defenses look standard for a Council facility. Heavy shields, automated weapon systems, fighter squadrons. Difficult, but not impossible to crack with the right approach. What kind of approach? Lee asked. Hit and run won't work on a target this size. We'd need a coordinated assault with multiple attack vectors, distraction forces, stealth infiltration teams, and massive firepower concentrated on key systems. G1 pulled up tactical analyses. We have 47 operational ships right now. The station has over 200 defenders, not counting the fighters. The odds are terrible. The odds were terrible when we escaped Earth, Captain Yu pointed out. We survived because we did the unexpected. The Council thinks in terms of overwhelming force and technological superiority. They don't understand human tactics. Lee walked to the viewport and stared out at the swirling energies of the Kepler void. In the distance, he could see the lights of their small fleet, 50 ships crewed by the last free humans in the galaxy. It wasn't much, but it was enough to start something bigger. We're going to do it, he said finally. But not as a simple rescue mission. We're going to turn it into the beginning of a galactic revolution. Over the following weeks, the Terran remnant fleet prepared for the most ambitious military operation in human history. Every ship was modified with Engineer Park's countermeasures against Council control systems. Weapons were upgraded with technology stolen from a dozen different raids. Most importantly, crews trained constantly in the new tactical doctrines Lee had developed. Human space combat tactics emphasized speed, unpredictability, and the willingness to take calculated risks that would terrify most alien species. Where Council fleets relied on formation fighting and overwhelming firepower, humans used individual ship initiative and complex multi-vector attacks. The key is not to fight them on their terms, Lee explained to his captains during the final briefing. They expect us to try matching their firepower. Instead, we're going to do what humans do best: adapt, improvise, and refuse to follow the rules. Dr. Yoon had worked with each crew to prepare them psychologically for what they might find at the integration station. The rescued humans would likely be traumatized, possibly brainwashed, and certainly weakened by months of captivity. But they were still human, and that meant they could be brought back to the fight. The attack began with a seemingly random raid on a Council supply depot 2 systems away from the integration station. Captain Yu led a small force in a noisy, destructive assault that drew significant Council forces away from their primary targets. While the aliens were distracted, Lee led the main fleet through a series of micro-jumps that brought them to the edge of the Vega system undetected. The Kepler void had taught them how to use gravity anomalies and sensor shadows to hide from even advanced alien detection systems. All ships, this is Commander Lee. Execute Plan Prometheus. The human fleet split into 3 groups. The first group, led by Engineer Park's modified destroyer, approached the station openly and began broadcasting surrender messages. The Council commanders, confident in their superiority, prepared to capture another human vessel for interrogation. The second group, consisting of the fastest ships, circled around the system's edge to attack the station's fighter bays and communication arrays. Their job was to prevent enemy reinforcements and cut off calls for help. The third group, commanded by Lee himself, used the chaos of the other attacks to approach the station's prisoner-holding areas. These ships carried the boarding teams that would rescue the captured humans and steal the integration archives. First contact in 30 seconds, reported the tactical officer aboard Lee's flagship. Council fighters are launching to intercept. The surrender group. Perfect. They're reacting exactly as predicted. All ships weapons free. Show them what humans learned in the fire of Earth's death. The battle for Integration Station 7 lasted 4 hours and changed the course. Fleet Admiral Hyunwoo Lee stood in the observation deck of the new Indomitable, watching the reconstruction of Earth from orbit. 3 years had passed since the fall of the Galactic Council, and the Blue World was finally beginning to heal. From the scars of betrayal and bombardment, cities rose from the ashes, built with hybrid technology that combined human innovation with the best achievements of 47 allied species. The orbital defense platforms were stronger than anything the old Earth had possessed, but they would never again depend solely on alien technology. Humanity had learned that lesson too well. "The memorial is ready for dedication," said Chancellor Soo-Jin Park, who now led the Terran Alliance's civilian government. The former diplomat had proven as skilled at building peace as she had been at waging war. Lee nodded, still staring down at the world where billions had died because they trusted too easily. "Any word from the war crimes tribunals?" "The last of the council leadership has been sentenced. Former Ambassador Veltar will spend the rest of his life in prison, along with the others who planned Earth's betrayal. The species that cooperated with reconstruction efforts have been granted full pardons. It had been a difficult process. The Alliance's new government was built on voluntary cooperation rather than conquest, but that meant negotiating with former enemies who had participated in genocide. The decision to offer amnesty to those who cooperated had been controversial, but it was the only way to build lasting peace." "What about the Outer Rim territories?" Lee asked. "Most have chosen to join the Alliance. A few prefer independence, which we've guaranteed under mutual defense treaties. The important thing is that no one is being forced into anything. We're not repeating the Council's mistakes." War Marshal Jae Sung Kim entered the observation deck, his expression serious. "Admiral, we have a problem. Long-range sensors are detecting unknown ships at the edge of Council space. They don't match any designs in our databases." Lee felt a familiar chill. The galaxy was vast and the Council had only controlled a portion of it. There were always rumors of other powers in the distant reaches of space, civilizations that had avoided contact with the Council's expanding empire. "How many ships?" "Preliminary count suggests several hundred. They appear to be conducting reconnaissance of former Council worlds. Our intelligence suggests they may be planning some kind of intervention." "Show me." The holographic display activated, showing the outer boundaries of what had once been Council space. Red markers indicated the position of the unknown fleet, which was indeed massive. If these ships were hostile, the Alliance could face a war even larger than the one they had just won. "Have they made any attempt at communication?" Lee asked. "None. They're maintaining radio silence and avoiding direct contact with our patrol ships, but they're definitely observing us." Chancellor Park frowned. "Could they be another empire like the Council? Maybe one that was waiting for the Council to fall before expanding into their territory?" "That's our primary concern," Marshal Kim replied. "If they're hostile and organized like the Council was, we could be facing the same cycle all over again. Friendly contact, apparent cooperation, followed by betrayal and conquest. Lee studied the tactical data, his mind racing through possibilities. The Alliance was still rebuilding from the war against the Council. Many worlds were devastated. Fleets were scattered across the galaxy maintaining peace, and the new government was still establishing its authority. They weren't prepared for another major conflict. Prepare a diplomatic mission, he decided, but keep it small and careful. I want to know who these people are and what they want, but I'm not taking any chances with another first contact scenario. Captain Mi Young Choi volunteered to lead the diplomatic mission. She commanded the rebuilt Indomitable, which carried the most advanced sensors and communication equipment in the Alliance fleet. If anyone could make peaceful contact with the unknown aliens, it was her. Remember what happened the last time? Humans trusted unknown aliens, Lee told her before departure. Be friendly, but be ready for anything. Understood, Admiral. We'll approach with shields up and weapons ready, but we'll lead with diplomatic protocols. If they're peaceful, we'll establish communication. If they're hostile... She left the sentence unfinished, but her meaning was clear. The Indomitable departed with a small escort fleet, leaving the Alliance to wait nervously for news. Lee spent the time reviewing intelligence reports and preparing for the worst-case scenario. The Alliance had grown strong, but they had also inherited responsibility for hundreds of worlds and billions of people who depended on them for protection. Dr. So Young Park joined him in his ready room, carrying data tablets filled with analysis of the unknown ships. I've been studying the sensor readings, she said. The technology appears to be completely different from anything the Council used. The power signatures are unlike anything we've encountered. Better or worse than Council technology. Different. Their ships seem to be organic in some way, more like living creatures than mechanical constructs. It's possible we're dealing with a species that evolved along completely different technological paths. That could be good or bad for us. Exactly. They might have capabilities we can't defend against, but they might also be vulnerable to our hybrid technologies in ways the Council never was. 3 days later, Captain Choi's first report arrived via quantum communication. Contact established with unknown fleet. They call themselves the Confederation of Free Systems. They claim to be refugees from the galactic core, fleeing something they call the Great Silence. Lee felt relief mixed with new concern. Refugees were less likely to be immediate threats, but if they were fleeing something powerful enough to drive them from their homes, that something might eventually threaten the Alliance as well. The Confederation has been observing the war between the Alliance and the Council. Choi's report continued. They were prepared to flee this region of space as well, expecting us to be another conquering empire. They're surprised and pleased to discover that we're actually trying to build a cooperative government. Over the following weeks, the full story emerged through careful negotiations. The Confederation represented the remnants of a galactic civilization that had existed in the galaxy's core regions for millions of years. They had been peaceful traders and explorers, much like what the Alliance was trying to become. But something had gone wrong in the galactic core. The Confederation's representatives spoke in hushed tones about worlds that had simply gone silent, entire star systems that had stopped all communication and become unreachable. Ships that investigated these silent zones never returned. They call it the Great Silence, Captain Choi reported. It started about 50 years ago and has been expanding outward ever since. Thousands of worlds have been affected. Billions of beings simply gone. No distress calls, no signs of struggle, just silence. What do they think is causing it? Lee asked during a secure communication session. They don't know. Some think it's a plague or weapon that destroys civilizations from within. Others believe it's some kind of cosmic phenomenon beyond our understanding. A few suspect it might be another form of life entirely, something so alien that we can't comprehend its nature or motives. And they're running from it? Not running exactly. They're trying to stay ahead of it while they search for answers or allies. The Council's empire blocked their expansion in this direction, but now that the Council is gone, Lee understood immediately. They want to settle in Alliance territory while they figure out how to fight this thing. They're hoping we can help them. Our victory against the Council has impressed them. They think human tactical innovation combined with Confederation technology might be able to find a solution to the Great Silence. It was a difficult decision. The Alliance was still rebuilding from one war, and now they were being asked to help fight something that had defeated a civilization millions of years old. But Lee also recognized an opportunity. Invite their leaders to a full diplomatic conference, he decided. If they're telling the truth about this Great Silence, it's going to reach us eventually whether we help them or not. Better to face it with allies than wait for it to arrive at our doorstep. The negotiations took months but eventually resulted in the Treaty of New Horizon. The Confederation would be granted territory in the Outer Rim to rebuild their civilization, while providing the Alliance with advanced technologies and scientific knowledge. In return, both groups would work together to understand and combat the threat of the Great Silence. Dr. Park was particularly excited about the Confederation's organic technologies. Their ships grow rather than being built, she explained to Lee. They can repair themselves, adapt to new threats, and even evolve new capabilities over time. Combined with our hybrid systems, we could create defensive technologies unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen. Engineer Sung-Min Park was equally impressed with their manufacturing techniques. They don't mine resources in the traditional sense. Instead, they cultivate them, growing materials with precisely the properties they need. It's like agriculture, but for starship hulls and computer systems. The cultural exchange was just as important as the technological one. The Confederation brought millions of years of galactic history. Admiral Hyunwoo Lee stood before the assembled representatives of 47 different species, each one a survivor of the Council's betrayal. The meeting was taking place on Refuge, a hidden world in the Outer Rim that had become the unofficial capital of the growing rebellion. 2 years had passed since the raid on Integration Station 7. The Terran remnant fleet had grown from 50 ships to over 300, with vessels from a dozen different species joining their cause. More importantly, they had become the spark that ignited resistance movements across the galaxy. The Council's latest offensive has failed, Lee announced to the Assembly. Their third fleet was destroyed at the Battle of Kepler Station, and Admiral Veltar himself is confirmed dead. A cheer rose from the assembled aliens, but Lee raised his hand for silence. But we cannot celebrate yet. Intelligence reports indicate the Council is preparing something called the Final Integration Protocol. We believe this means they plan to eliminate all resistance by destroying entire star systems. Ambassador Soo-Jin Park, who had escaped from a Council prison world 6 months earlier, stepped forward. As humanity's former trade negotiator, she had become the rebellion's chief diplomat. The good news is that 3 more Council species have opened secret negotiations with us. The Vega Commonwealth is considering changing sides entirely. That was significant. The Vega Commonwealth controlled some of the galaxy's most important industrial worlds. Their defection would cripple the Council's ability to build new warships and maintain their existing fleet. What are their terms? Asked General Jae-Sung Kim, who had led the liberation of 12 prison worlds in the past year. He was no relation to the original Admiral Kim, but he had taken the name to honor the dead hero. They want guarantees that they won't be punished for their role in the Council's crimes, Soo-Jin replied. They're particularly concerned about what happens to their colonies and trade networks. Lee considered this carefully. The rebellion had grown strong enough to be choosy about their allies, but they couldn't afford to turn away any Council species willing to switch sides, offer them full amnesty in exchange for a complete transfer of their military and industrial assets to the rebellion. Make it clear that this is a one-time offer. Dr. So-Young Park, now the rebellion's chief scientist, activated a holographic display showing the galaxy's current political situation. Red areas showed Council-controlled space, which still encompassed about 60% of known civilization. Blue areas marked rebellion territory, while yellow indicated contested systems. Our technical advantages continue to grow, she reported. The countermeasures against Council control systems are now standard on all rebellion ships. More importantly, we've begun reverse engineering their most advanced technologies and combining them with innovations from our allied species. Engineer Sung-Min Park nodded in agreement. The new hybrid drives are 30% faster than anything the Council has. Our weapons can now penetrate their best shields, and our defensive systems can withstand sustained bombardment from their dreadnoughts. But it was Captain Boram Yu who delivered the most important news. The shipyards on New Horizon are ready to begin production of our first purpose-built warships. These won't be modified council vessels or jury-rigged combinations of different technologies. They're designed from the ground up for one mission: destroying the council. Lee studied the technical specifications that appeared on the display. The new ships were larger and more heavily armed than anything in the Rebellion's current fleet. More importantly, they incorporated design principles from dozens of different species, creating vessels that would be completely unpredictable to council tacticians. "How many can we build?" he asked. "The first batch will be 12 ships completed within 6 months. If we can secure more resources and manufacturing capacity, we could potentially build 50 ships per year." "We'll need more than 50 ships to take on the Council's core fleets," General Kim pointed out. "They still have numerical superiority in every major sector." "Numbers aren't everything," Lee replied. "We've proven that superior tactics and motivation can overcome raw firepower, but you're right that we need a decisive advantage." He turned to address the full assembly. "Ladies, gentlemen, and honored representatives of our allied species, we stand at a crossroads. The Council is preparing for their final offensive, which means we must launch ours first." The room erupted in excited chatter as species that had suffered under Council rule for centuries finally saw a real chance at freedom. Lee waited for quiet before continuing. "Operation Nemesis will be our largest coordinated assault to date. We will simultaneously attack 12 Council core worlds, including their primary shipyards and command centers. The goal is not just military victory, but the complete collapse of their governmental structure." Ambassador Park looked concerned. "That's an enormous risk. If we fail, the rebellion could be destroyed. Even if we succeed, we'll be committing ourselves to governing half the galaxy. Are we prepared for that responsibility?" It was a valid concern. The rebellion had grown from a small fleet of human survivors into a galactic military force, but they had never attempted to govern conquered territory on a large scale. The Council's administrative systems were vast and complex, and simply destroying them could lead to chaos across hundreds of worlds. "We've been preparing for this," Lee assured her. "Each liberated world will be given the choice to join our new galactic government or maintain independence under mutual defense treaties. We're not trying to replace the Council's empire with our own." Dr. Mira Yoon, now the rebellion's chief of civilian affairs, had spent months developing plans for post-war reconstruction. "We've learned from the Council's mistakes. Instead of forced integration, we're offering voluntary cooperation. Species that join us will keep their own governments and cultures, but work together on common defense and trade policies." "What about the Council species themselves?" asked a representative of the Altair Republic, one of the first alien civilizations to join the rebellion. "Some of them were victims too, forced to participate in the conquest system to avoid being conquered themselves. Individual Council species will be judged based on their actions, not their membership in the Council," Lee replied. "Those who surrender peacefully and cooperate with war crimes tribunals will be offered the same terms as everyone else. Those who fight to preserve the old system will be dealt with accordingly." Over the following months, the rebellion's war machine shifted into high gear. Shipyards across rebellion space worked around the clock building the new hybrid warships. Training centers prepared crews from dozens of different species to work together as unified fleet units. Most importantly, intelligence networks gathered detailed information about Council defenses and troop deployments. The humans remained the rebellion's tactical leaders, but they were no longer fighting alone. Altair engineers provided SHIELD, technology that could resist Council plasma weapons. Rigel defectors shared navigation data for the fastest hyperspace routes to Council core worlds. Former Council military officers provided detailed battle plans and command protocols. Captain Yu took command of the Retribution, the first of the new hybrid warships. The vessel was a masterpiece of collaborative engineering, incorporating the best features of human adaptability, alien precision, and captured Council technology. "She handles like a dream," Yu reported after the ship's first combat trials. faster than a destroyer, heavier armed than a battlecruiser, and with stealth capabilities that make her nearly invisible to Council sensors. General Kim led increasingly bold operations to test the rebellion's new capabilities. His forces liberated 3 more Council prison worlds, captured a major supply depot, and destroyed a Council fleet base in a single month. Each victory brought more species into the rebellion and weakened the Council's grip on their empire. But the Council wasn't sitting idle. Their response was swift and brutal. 3 rebellion worlds were attacked by Council dreadnoughts, their populations scattered or enslaved. The message was clear. The Council would rather destroy everything than lose control. "They're getting desperate," Lee observed during a strategy meeting. "These attacks aren't strategically valuable. They're terror tactics designed to frighten our allies." "The problem is that they're working," Ambassador Park replied. "Some of our newer allies are having second thoughts about continuing the fight. They're afraid the Council will target their homeworlds next." Lee studied the tactical displays showing Council fleet movements. The enemy was pulling their forces back toward their core systems, abandoning outer territories to concentrate their strength for a final decisive battle. It was exactly what he had hoped for. "Send word to all fleet commanders," he ordered. "Operation Nemesis begins in 72 hours. It's time to end this war." The rebellion's assault fleet was the largest military force assembled in galactic history. Over 800 ships representing 47 species, armed with hybrid technologies that the Council had never encountered. They moved through hyperspace in 12 separate groups, each targeting a different Council core world. Lee commanded the assault on Centauri Prime, the Council's capital world. It was the most heavily defended target, but also the most important. If they could capture